Fears of these strange newcomers from the East became reality for Michigan's native peoples with the arrival of French missionaries and traders, often called voyagers, in the late 1600s. On August 23, 1679, the French explorer Robert La Salle first visited the Great Lakes. 10 years later, La Salle made a voyage on the small ship, the Griffin, which sailed up the St. Clair River, past St. Clair County, and into other parts of the Great Lakes. It is likely that the people aboard the Griffin were the first Europeans to see many parts of Michigan. It was on this voyage that La Salle named the lake St. Clair, because that part of his voyage occurred on the traditional day honoring St. Clair. More Europeans followed. These newcomers were few in number and had customs and habits that seemed strange to the native peoples. These people brought with them many new things, including cloth, iron tools, woven blankets, and colorful jewelry. Perhaps most significantly, the Europeans also brought with them the most powerful hunting tool ever created: the gun. Europeans also inadvertently introduced many diseases to America. Because native peoples had never before come in contact with these diseases, they had not built up immunity to them. That means smallpox would have been far deadlier to a group of native people with no immunity than to European people who would likely have built immunity. The native peoples did not use money as we know it today. Instead, they exchanged one thing for another. This is called bartering. In those days, the voyagers would trade their blankets, tools, and guns for the pelts of beavers, otters, and other animals highly prized in Europe. Trading was a generally peaceful activity, but things weren't always peaceful. Local histories relate that two major battles occurred in this area. The first was in the 1600s near Sarnia, Canada. The second was in the mid-1700s along the Black River, near what would become Port Huron. In this battle, it is said that the Ojibwa chieftain, Kashkans, led a force of 400 canoes full of warriors against the Iroquois invaders. The Iroquois drove the Anishinaabe off to the west for several decades. The French and British were each jockeying to take control of this part of North America and the massive natural resources available there. Several wars broke out, including the French and Indian War. Each of these wars drew in the French, the British, and the native peoples. The native peoples of this region, which included what is now Port Huron and Sarnia, allied themselves cautiously with the French, who seemed more willing to accept the native ways and less interested than the British in demanding more and more land. In the end, the French military withdrew, leaving the native peoples to deal with their new trading partners. The British were less friendly to the native peoples than the French, which led to a series of confrontations. In 1763, for example, the well-known Chief Pontiac created an alliance to drive out the British. While Chief Pontiac won several battles, the British were too powerful and forced the alliance to make peace with them. Only a decade later, the American Revolution began. This time, some native people sided with the British, fearing that the American colonists' intentions were to move them even farther west. Those fears proved correct. The colonists won and continued to push west. For many years, the region that now includes Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and other states was a dangerous, violent frontier. Shedding blood for every inch they were driven back, the native peoples were defeated. They signed a number of peace treaties with the settlers, losing ground every time. Among the treaties signed between the native tribes and the American government was the Treaty of Greenville in 1795, which gave the Detroit area, including most of St. Clair County, to the United States. 12 years later, the Treaty of Detroit gave up more land, including land into the mid-thumb of Michigan. Despite the military efforts of native leaders such as Tecumseh and Black Hawk, native peoples never regained control of the Great Lakes. The official end of large-scale native control of Michigan land came in 1836. In a new treaty, native peoples gave up their lands here in exchange for land west of the Mississippi River, then known as Indian Land. Today, most of this land is known as the state of Oklahoma. Moving to Indian Land was difficult for the native peoples of Michigan who went there. Despite these events, not all relations between settlers and the local native peoples were unfriendly.